Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a major ice and snowstorm with flooding and a flash freeze all the way into Texas with widespread snow and ice issues. Welcome back everyone, how's it going? Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you hadn't subscribed already. It's free to do so, and click the notification bell to get all my daily updates. Let's go ahead and delve into the details. Look at this morning over at the overall jet stream, and this really kind of shows you what's going to take place in this coming week as this powerful Arctic surge comes straight from Canada and plunges all the way into Texas. And unfortunately, at the same time, we're going to have a surface low develop here that's going to cause some overrunning conditions, bringing some flooding rains, ice, sleet, snow. This whole mix, this whole corridor is going to be inundated with a high impact event with snow and ice and sleet issues. So let's go over and take a look at the overall hazard map this morning, and you can see they're already issuing some winter weather advisories into portions of Idaho as well as Montana, and some high wind watches and warnings with some 35-mile-per-hour sustained winds, but some 60-mile-per-hour gusts in around the Dakotas. And then further to the south, we've got winter weather advisories already taking place into parts of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, as well as southern Michigan here. But we also have got a flash flood watch today with this little upper level low disturbance is going to be traversing across South Texas, places like Austin, LaGrange, down here in Port Lavaca area, Victoria. Those areas are going to be picking up 2 to 3 inches of rain today, with some heavy rain moving in. And we still got some flash, freeze warnings into Florida, where they've been really cold as of late. So let's take a look at the overall map setup today. We can see our plunging temperatures. They're going to be moving in from the Pacific Northwest. We've got some snow breaking out in the mountains of Montana here, then also snow into portions of the Dakotas, with that Arctic surge just beginning to push. But down to the south, there's that disturbance that's going to be bringing some scattered showers into places in the southern, North Texas, central Texas, but that heavier rain where they do have those flash flood watches in place, where they do have a warm front that's going to be lifting back up from the south to the north. That's going to be causing those increasing temperatures, but also helping to provide the lift to create those thunderstorms later on this afternoon. And then for tomorrow, going into Tuesday, starting the month of February, you can see this Arctic surge can be continuing to plunge south to the Dakotas. Out ahead of it, we already have those winter weather advisories in place. And unfortunately, with this particular setup, there's going to be some warm air aloft. This is very shallow, dense Arctic air mass. Shallow air sinks, and it sinks to the surface. So it's going to be much colder at the surface than it is going to be at 4,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And that's the concern with this system. A lot of this is going to be in the form of freezing rain in places into portions of Missouri, going into places going into central Illinois as we get into the day on a Tuesday, with that upper level low that's going to be pushing off in portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. They're going to be seeing some heavier showers and thunderstorms, and some of those could be on the severe side as well. And let's take a look at the overall setup for Wednesday. So this is when it really starts to get interesting, especially for places further south. We've got snow breaking out into Denver, going into portions of New Mexico here, with heavy snow in New Mexico, into Kansas. That'll start pushing into the Texas Panhandle. And as that cold front presses, it's going to be flooding rains on the south side, and then we're going to have more or less a flash freeze happening in Texas as temperatures plunge rapidly, causing black ice, and then causing a lot of ice as those temperatures start to really plunge and widespread in the 20s going into the overnight hours on Wednesday. That'll swing through Arkansas, as much as portions of southern Missouri, southern Illinois, and southern Indiana, with that heavier snow to the north going into places in the northern Missouri and northern Illinois and northern Ohio here with those heavier snows. Let's kind of break this down as we get into the afternoon hours on that Wednesday time frame. You can see this Arctic surge with below zero temperatures to the north, but those plunging temperatures into the teens in Kansas, back into the 20s. These are 3 o'clock in the afternoon temperatures, and yeah, you can see the separation of the 70s to the south, where they're going to be getting some of that heavier rain and thunderstorms, and there's going to be a sharp gradient as temperatures rapidly fall, starting into the getting into portions of the evening hours, say into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then as we get into that map, let's take a look at the overall precipitation, because like I mentioned, we're going to have heavier rain to the south side into South Texas. And then once that transition starts to creep down into the freezing level, the problem with this event, we're going to have some winds. So we're going to 20, 25, upwards to 40-mile-per-hour winds. Typically, you need widespread 28 degrees or lower to cause massive issues on the roads. Well, unfortunately, with this type of setup, because of the wind, it's going to be able to help heat up the surfaces, kind of erode the heat from the surfaces a little bit faster than it normally would because of the higher winds. So then it's only going to be taking 30 to say 31 degrees for things to really start sticking on the surfaces. So things are going to be starting to rapidly deteriorate as we get into the afternoon hours in northwest Texas, getting into the panhandle, where they're going to have that sharp gradient where that freezing rain moves in. The pink is your freezing rain, and the darker shaded peak is the heavier freezing rain. The orange is your sleet, and then of course the blue is all snow. So you've got all snow in Denver and the panhandle and Missouri and Illinois and Indiana, and then that sharp gradient as it pushes further to the south. Yeah, so as we get into that midnight time frame, I think that's when things start really getting dicey into Dallas and much of Texas. Temperatures are going to be falling to that freezing mark, if not a little bit below. So it's going to be a fast transition with that flash freeze, with that black ice developing on all the roads and surfaces. But then it's going to quickly turn to a thick coating of ice as temperatures start to plunge well into the 20s. So it's going to be widespread dangerous issues on the roadways after midnight into the Dallas-Fort Worth area and much of central Texas and the panhandle of Texas, and of course widespread teens in the Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and back here below zero where they've had that snowpack. Now we're talking 15 below zero in portions of Colorado. So definitely some truly Arctic air on the way. And like I mentioned, the winds are going to be a big issue with this system, because as we get into that midnight time frame, that's going to be the fast temperature drop off and have that flash freeze creating, because those higher winds pulling that heat from those surfaces, and those 20 to 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts are going to be taking place as things rapidly deteriorate in a big way. Because yes, there's the midnight setup. It's going to be all freezing rain into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then sleet on the backside, and then you got snow in the panhandle as temperature starts to plunge. You got all rain to the south side, so you still got widespread 60s, into the 30s, into the 20s, and then you're in the teens in the panhandle. So you can see temperatures rapidly deteriorate quickly in Texas. But so by the time you wake up on Thursday morning, February 3rd, yeah, you're talking near 20 degrees and Dallas, widespread 20s in the central Texas, reaching all the way down into Austin and portions of East Texas too. I don't actually think the actual precipitation makes it as far south as maybe San Antonio. That's going to be the borderline. That's questionable, but definitely Austin. I don't think it reaches actually Houston. You get the cold air, but you don't get the ice because the precipitation is going to be done by then. But you do get all the heavier rain for sure. And as this continues to press, we've got, man, that's dangerous temperatures. These are actual temperatures, folks, of 30 below zero in parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota, as that true Arctic air continues to move southward. And yeah, there's the setup by Thursday. It rapidly deteriorates. You're talking temperatures at 20 degrees. So you got widespread issues. Freezing rain, a lot of sleet, and then snow, if not some heavier snow at times, in the Panhandle into West Texas. And there's the gradient. I think that's where it stops, right at the Austin area. It could reach borderline San Antonio. I don't think it actually makes it to Houston, but it does get into portions of East Texas, and that'll eventually start swinging through portions of places into Tennessee, going into Kentucky, as you start getting into southern Illinois, Indiana, as well as Ohio here, with that heavier snow to the north in northern Indiana and northern Ohio with that heavier snow band. So there's going to be a sharp gradient of who actually gets the rain, who gets the snow, who gets the ice, who gets the freezing rain, the sleet, because of the warm air aloft in this particular environment. So you literally have much higher temperatures at 4,000 feet than you do at the surface. And this is Arctic air. It travels fast, and then it's very shallow, and it sinks. And all that Arctic air is going to sink to the surface, but you're going to have that warm air aloft. So that's why you're going to have that rain. You're going to have that freezing rain, and then some of that's going to be forming into sleet. And then once all that moves out on the backside, that's when you're going to get the snow, if there's any precipitation left, in your area, as that low continues to, push across. So into the overnight hours on Thursday, most of the precipitation should be done in Texas. And now we're talking to places into Kentucky, into West Virginia, going into Pennsylvania, getting back into Jersey, into places, into portions of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, where you've got that heavier snow just to the north in northern Ohio, northern Pennsylvania, northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, going into Maine with more snow for you guys after you got crushed with that system just the other day. And then let's look at the overall extreme forecast on the European. And this is pretty extreme event for Texas. You're not used to this stuff. Obviously, you had it last February, but that's been an entire year. So these type of events for Texas come few and far between. So this is a high impact event, about a 90% level of high impact. So that we're talking widespread issues, because once this precipitation moves out, the biggest concern is the temperatures don't warm up for several days. So you're going to be falling below freezing temperatures for several days, 2 if not 3 days in a row, with ice on the ground. So anything that does fall would be sticking on all surfaces for an extended period of time of 2 to 3 days, with plunging temperatures well to the 20s, if not some single digits coming up as we get into that Saturday morning. But yeah, widespread issues for a good chunk of the south, portions of Arkansas, especially as you go into portions of Illinois here, with more of an extreme event with some of that heavier type of snowfall. But here's some of the temperatures as we get into Friday morning. I mean, you can look. I mean, how often do you see single digit temperatures in Texas? That's not very often, guys. And that Arctic air plunges all the way into the Rio Grande Valley, with freezing temperatures all the way into portions of South Texas. But yeah, widespread issues across Texas. And then well to the north, we got plenty of Arctic air in place, and even below zero temperatures in Missouri. But yeah, as that precipitation moves off, here's Saturday setup. A lot of this, as it moves out and all the layers of the atmosphere finally cool, it'll finally transfer over to snow, getting back into Connecticut and Massachusetts, back into Rhode Island, along the Cape here, where they got inundated and crashed with that system the other day. They're going to be hit again with all, some freezing rain, some sleet, and then snow on the backside, with rain into the portions of the southeast as we get into the day on Saturday. But then as we get into Saturday morning, there's your wind chills. So anything into green, that is below zero, feels like wind chills. So you're talking negative numbers all the way into central Texas. That's basically a rare event. That does not happen to get, below freezing wind chills, below zero wind chills in portions of central Texas. But that is on the table as this extended cold spell lasts for several days. As we move into the precipitation, this is the concern with this event, because there's going to be a lot of precipitation. I mean, notice the areas that have been bone dry as of late, they get helped with the drought. Unfortunately, it does help with the drought, but unfortunately it comes with a price to pay in the form of freezing rain and sleet and some snow with that. But we do have some rain coming back for the Pacific Northwest, going into Idaho, into Montana. As this traverses across, you've got that liquid precipitation in portions of Denver and New Mexico. But a lot of this down further to the south is going to be in the form of rain. Like I mentioned, you get 2 to 3 inches today, but you're going to get more on top of that second system that's coming in. But yeah, some of these totals could be 2, 3, upwards to 5 inches of heavier rain. So we could be dealing with some flooding issues. And a lot of this is going to be in the form of freezing rain and sleet and snow. So let's take a look at some of those totals with widespread freezing rain issues. So all these areas into that lighter shaded area, that is 1/10 of an inch of ice. Anything over 1/8 of an inch causes serious issues. We could be looking at some higher totals of possibly 1/4 inch, if not places more into Dallas, into North Dallas, getting in towards portions of the Red River, going into Oklahoma. And some of these areas could be picking up 1/4 inch, if not upwards to 1/2 inch. And much of Arkansas and to portions of western Tennessee, western Kentucky, going to southern Ohio. So widespread issues with freezing rain going to be sticking to all surfaces. That's just the freezing rain. That's just one part of the story, as we got the second with a lot of sleet. I mean, some of these areas could be picking up 1/2 inch of sleet, portions of 1 inch, possibly up to 2 inches of sleet in some of these darker shaded areas in and around this swath here. So we're talking a significant event that's on the table for the rest of the week. And there's the snow. Here's the blend of the models currently right now. This area in blue, you're talking, places into 3 to 5 inch range. Once you start getting into some of those purple areas, that's when we're talking upwards to 7 to 8 inches. You start getting into the pink areas, that is your 8 to 12 inch snow band, essentially from central Missouri, central Illinois, northern Indiana, northern Ohio, northern PA, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, going back into Maine. That's a good swath of 8 to 12 inches. But yeah, there's going to be spots in here that could be picking up, 12 to 18 inches of snow. Is definitely not out of the question as this rapidly moves through, essentially from Wednesday through Saturday time frame. And then let's take a look at next week. So we got the first week of February, but then the second week of February, it remains cold. I mean, we're cold in Texas and much of the Southeast and much of the eastern 2/3 of the US and the Northeast as well. You're above average in portions of the North and the Northwest and the Western areas. And then let's take a look at the overall precipitation for the first half of February. So you can actually see there's subtle hints of the overall flow of what we've been used to the last couple of months. I mean, you start drying out over the Pacific Northwest and much of the Western areas. Your average rainfall for the next 2 weeks into portions of Montana, getting into parts of here. Now, average may not sound impressive, but this whole area has been well below average for an extended period of time. And there's all these areas in Texas where you're talking 70% of the state is more or less in a severe drought. Look at all the above average rain that's coming back in the picture over the first half of February. So that is a noticeable difference of what you've seen as of late. And then you got some heavier above average rains extending into the Southeast and into the Ohio Valley and portions of the Northeast as well. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.